As the biggest clubs across Europe tightened the purse strings after a financially crippling 2020, one side saw an opportunity to dominate the transfer market, and that was Chelsea FC, led by their director and chief negotiator Marina Granovskaia. The 45-year-old has overseen an incredible summer outlay of over £220 million and welcomed 7 of football's biggest talents to Stamford Bridge. But who is the lady Roman Abramovich listens to above all else? And how did she orchestrate one of the most exciting spending sprees in recent history? This is Everything You Need to Know, the show that looks at the biggest talking points in football. And this week we are looking at Marina Granovskaia, the woman that won the transfer market. Footage of Granovskaia giving interviews simply doesn't exist, as beside from the odd brief statement on the Chelsea website, Abramovich's main lieutenant operates strictly in private. But that doesn't mean it's not possible to chart her rise to power behind the scenes. Of dual Russian and Canadian nationality, her working relationship with Abramovich started over 20 years ago, when in 1997 she joined his oil company Sibneft. Initially as PA, Granovskaia clearly made an impression with the billionaire, as when he decided to buy Chelsea in 2003, she followed him to England. Over the next 7 years, her stature and voice in the club slowly grew as the West London side asserted themselves as a domestic force. Granovskaia's most notable contributions in that time include leading Chelsea to their new state-of-the-art training ground in Cobham and promoting the link with Dutch club Vitesse, which has provided their youth academy with valuable first-team experience. Both acts highlighted Granovskaia's visionary forward thinking, and by 2010 she was named Abramovich's official representative at the club. As the Russians' eyes and ears, her influence was building, and within 3 years, the Moscow State University graduate was sworn onto the board. 12 months later, the Times had already named her the most powerful woman in football. It's around this time that her reputation as a fierce negotiator and formidable transfer chief firmly evolved. She proved the driving force behind snatching Fernando Torres from Liverpool and fighting off competition for Diego Costa. Then in 2017, she sealed a £60 million per year sponsorship deal with Nike that will run until 2032. But arguably her greatest achievement has been generating over £400 million in player sales since March 2013, helping the club avoid the prying eyes of UEFA's financial fair play, convincing Real Madrid to pay an initial £88.5 million with up to £45 million in add-ons for Eden Hazard. The 28-year-old with 1 year left of his contract who publicly wanted to leave is hailed as an incredible example of her power. But what is it about Granovskaia that makes her one of the most capable deal-makers in the game? According to those who have dealt with her firsthand, her business-like approach to negotiations is exceptional. Granovskaia is incredibly straight-talking, charming and respected for not resorting to tricks and deceit that muddies the world of football transfers. Another thing that is highlighted about Granovskaia is her refusal to let emotion cloud her judgment. Despite maintaining an excellent working relationship with the players, when it comes to business, the club comes first. A perfect example of this happened when Diego Costa desperately pushed for a move back to Atletico Madrid in May 2017, even refusing to return from Brazil. Granovskaia remained unmoved, only sanctioning his departure once the Spaniards met their £59 million asking price. The same happened with Thibaut Courtois a year later. The Belgian went as far to call the Chelsea's director dishonest in public, but that didn't stop her from keeping him in London until Real Madrid paid a fair price. Deals often go to the last minute of deadline day as every inch of the contract is fought over. Her personable approach has earned her a good working relationship with club officials and player agents across the game, all of which is key to understanding how Chelsea was so successful this summer. But something happened in 2017 that also contributed to the club's player recruitment model. Chelsea's former technical director Michael Emenalo resigned, but rather than find a direct replacement, Granovskaia merely assumed more of his power. During the Nigerian's time in charge, the process of identifying targets in the market was fairly convoluted. The club's chief international scout, Scott McLachlan, reported into Emenalo, who in turn had to consult with a number of former players and advisors who operated closely around Abramovich. The result was a muddled transfer policy that saw proven stars like Fernando Torres and David Luiz arrive 1 year, followed by the young contingent of Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne and Courtois the next. While all have been highly successful in their own right, at the time they were all destined for Chelsea's infamous loan system, pioneered by Emenalo. With the former left-back gone, Granovskaia gained complete control over the club's transfer policy. The process was streamlined, with McLachlan's word on player recruitment becoming the main authority, along with contributions from the new coach Frank Lampard and technical advisor Petr Cech. Together they complete the team who would mastermind this summer's activity. The key element to Chelsea's success is Lampard's excellent working relationship with Granovskaia, who in turn respects the Englishman, understanding that the former midfielder can be a huge asset in luring targets to Stamford Bridge. It sounds simple, but a poor connection between manager and director can lead to mistakes in recruitment. A classic example of this happened in the summer of 2017, when Antonio Conte grew irate at the lack of new additions. Granovskaia rushed to please the fiery Italian, signing Morata, Bakayoko, Rudiger, Zappacosta and Drinkwater. Of the five, only Rudiger remains. With Lampard, however, the situation is different, highlighted when the former Derby County manager remained quiet despite no one arriving last January. The Englishman knew the club were chasing targets he wanted and respected the difficulty of the winter window. The business that followed, however, bears all the hallmarks of Granovskaia's foresight, power and influence. The club knew that after a transfer ban in the summer of 2019, they had money to spend, while Lampard's success in guiding an academy-led team to Champions League qualifications earned them millions too. It also gave them plenty of time to plan their strategy. Hakim Ziyech came first after it was announced back in February 2020 that the gifted winger would join from Ajax this summer. Lampard had wanted him in January, but with the Dutch club refusing to play ball, accepted his delayed arrival. Industry experts across the game were reportedly very impressed with the speed and efficiency by which Granovskaia carried out negotiations, capturing one of Europe's most sought-after talents for a modest £38 million. It went against the trend of English clubs playing over the odds in the market. Next came Timo Werner, who'd widely been expected to join Liverpool. The German forward was available from RB Leipzig for just under £48 million, yet the Reds strained to meet that release clause and others tried to negotiate lower terms. In this instance, Granovskaia's transparency and directness paid dividends. As Chelsea indicated, they were happy to meet Leipzig's demands. A charm offensive from Lampard and even help from fellow German Rudiger was all it took for Werner to choose West London, having not even considered them as an option at the start of the window. Their persuasive double act struck again in the pursuit of German sensation Kai Havertz. The Bayer Leverkusen star was said to be blown away by the vision of a youthful attack-led Chelsea laid out to him by the manager and Granovskaia, who'd been tracking him for a number of years. The negotiations with a club backed by the huge pharmaceutical company would prove particularly challenging when it came to driving down the price. The Bundesliga outfit's transfer chief Fernando Caro was reportedly wary of falling for the Chelsea director's persuasive allure. German outlet Bild even claimed Granovskaia hired local agents to discover advantage points she could use in negotiations with Caro, suggesting a more ruthless approach to the Russian Canadian. Nonetheless, the Blues were determined not to bow to Caro's lofty demands, and negotiations were fiercely contested. However, both claimed success when the £89 million deal was agreed. The case of Thiago Silva and Ben Chilwell are examples of the director listening to the manager and putting his desires first. Despite agents proposing multiple alternatives, she understood that Lampard was only interested in Chilwell. Leicester City, however, initially claimed they would only entertain a world record fee over £70 million for the left-back, which complicated proceedings. But Granovskaia exploited the fact the Foxes had missed out on the financial promised land of the Champions League to drive a hard bargain, sealing the 23-year-old for £45 million. With Thiago Silva, she again listened to Lampard's desperation for an experienced figure at the back, and relaxed the club's rule of one-year contracts for over 30s to make a move happen. And finally, the arrival of Edouard Mendy highlighted the importance of Scott McLachlan's statistical database Chelsea had become famed for. The Senegalese international had been well documented within their scouting system since 2016, so once it became clear that Lampard was fed up with Kepa, the team came to life. With Petr Cech's approval, Mendy was agreed on as a feasible target, and Granovskaia went to work. The result is a transfer window which has smashed expectations and thrilled everyone at Stamford Bridge. Granovskaia delivered almost every target Lampard wanted, and it's now up to the coach to produce results on the field. She was able to operate so effectively thanks to her unyielding support from Abramovich, and utilise her planning and skills in the market to devastating effect. The Iron Lady of Chelsea is only growing stronger with every passing day. And that's all we have time for today, but let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more great content. Bye for now.